So Donald Trump held a press conference today in Mar-a-Lago where he whined about water pressure in showers. He spread lies and disinformation about January 6th, and he complained about the Justice Department's cases against him. And he also pretty much announced that he wants to go to war with Panama, Greenland, Mexico, and Canada. I'm going to make this a two-part video because it was a really long press conference. It was mainly him just rambling nonsense, but I do want to address a lot of the misinformation that he shared. So I'm going to start with just his speech, basically, to the reporters, and then in part two, I'll talk about his response to questions from reporters. So let's start with a clip where he complains about how Biden banned offshore drilling yesterday.
President Biden's actions yesterday on offshore drilling, banning offshore drilling, will not stand. I will reverse it immediately. It'll be done immediately. And we will drill, baby, drill. And we're going to be drilling in a lot of other locations. And the energy costs are going to come way down. They'll be brought down to a very low level. And that's going to bring everything else down. That's what caused it to go up, along with the ridiculous spending on the Green New scam. All this money, trillions of dollars. It's like throwing it right out the window with it.
He rambled for a really long time about how it's so much acreage and Biden is taking away trillions from the American economy by doing that. But in reality, Joe Biden actually drilled more than any other president, and we have a subsidy of oil. Oil companies don't want to drill more because if there's way too much supply, they can't charge as much. So realistically, my guess, he's going to sell offshore drilling contracts to a lot of foreign nations. But that's just my guess. Anyway, he bitched a lot during this press conference about all the cases against him from the Department of Justice. And he claims that he has won all the cases.
Nobody's ever won so many cases as I have against the Justice Department. I mean, Jack Smith had cases all over the place. People were being subpoenaed, lives were being ruined. They were spending everything they had, money. We were helping them out. We had to. They were subpoenaing people that had no idea what they were even talking about. That's a sick group of people. And it was all to influence the election. It was all a fight against a political opponent.
No, Donald, the cases where it was the people of the United States versus Donald Trump were about how you tried to overthrow democracy and how you ran off with a bunch of classified documents. Oh, and how you're a rapist. He also had a really weird complaint about electricity.
And we don't have enough electricity, and then we have AI where we need more, and he wants everybody to have an electric heater instead of a gas heater. Gas heater is much less expensive. The heat is much better. It's a much better heat. As the expression goes, you don't itch. Does anybody have a heater where you go and you're scratching? And that's what they want you to have. They don't want you to have gas.
I literally have no idea what he's talking about there with electric heaters make you itch. I don't understand. And nobody is forcing anybody to get an electric heater either. We have a gas heater, but we also have an electric water heater, and it's all fine. What? And neither of them make me itch. He also whined about how the water pressure in toilets is really bad, and this is a complaint he's had for a long time, so I feel like maybe just Trump Towers and Mar-a-Lago maybe just have bad pipes that he doesn't invest in. I don't know. And he had some guy from the Middle East named Hussein come up and talk about how he's going to invest $20 billion into AI centers in the U.S. without having to go through any environmental regulations. Because remember, that is a promise that Trump made, that if you invest $1 billion, you can bypass all regulations. So his complaint about how we don't have enough electricity, he went on to say that he wants to build electric plants next to factories because the factories need the electricity and they deserve the subsidy of getting the electricity, but not the consumers, not the American people. Electricity makes us itch. He also pretty explicitly said, which I'll talk about in part two because it was during the question part of the press conference, that he's not ruling out using military force against Panama and Greenland and Mexico. In fact, Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump Jr. were in Greenland today trying to sell the idea of becoming part of MAGA America. And here's Donald Trump's Twitter today. Greenland loves America and Trump. Incredible people with an equally awesome reception. They just want to be able to utilize some of the incredible resources that they have and allow themselves, their country, and their kids to flourish. Here he is with Charlie Kirk. Greenland is beautiful. Not only Greenland or the Panama Canal, but Trump has been like openly saying that he wants Canada to be the 51st state.
Not treated well, as you know, by Canada. Canada is subsidized to the tune of about $200 billion a year, plus other things. They don't essentially have a military. They have a very small military. They rely on our military. It's all fine, but, they got to pay for that. It's very unfair. I have so many great friends. One of them is the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I said, run for prime minister. You'll win it'll take 2 seconds. But he said, well, am I going to run for prime minister or governor? You tell me. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it better. But no, something's going to have to.
I really need people to understand that colonization and expansion of land is a massive proponent of authoritarianism. The Canadian people don't want to be a part of America. Like, they are their own sovereign nation. And I imagine they probably don't want to be part of an America where the leader bullies them into submission and talks shit about their military. I have Canadian family. If any of you guys are watching this, chat with me. Do you guys want to become part of America? And he wants Wayne Gretzky to be the governor of Canada? Fuck. He also wants to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico.
We're going to change because we do most of the work there and it's ours. We're going to be changing sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers.
And right on cue, one of his most loyal MAGA freaks, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, has announced on Tuesday that she would file legislation to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, after President-elect Donald Trump made the pitch during a press conference. How is changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America going to stop crime or lower the price of eggs? He also goes on to whine for several minutes about how much he hates wind energy.
In a period of time, they turned to garbage. Most expensive energy ever. They only work if you get subsidy. The only people that want them are the people that are getting rich off windmills, getting massive subsidies from the U.S. government. And it's the most expensive energy there is. It's many, many times more expensive than clean natural gas. So we're going to try and have a policy where no windmills are being built. Off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build like 200 windmills. The people are going crazy. Nobody wants them, and they're very expensive. They don't work without subsidy. You don't want energy that needs subsidy. Energy is a good business. You don't need subsidy.
A lot to unpack in that clip. Yeah, wind energy is expensive, and it does take government subsidies. But you know what else takes government subsidies, Trump? Oil and gas. This is from the National Resources Defense Center, which Robert Kennedy Jr. used to work for. But a lot of current and former NRDC folks have came out and said that RFK sucks. Anyway, this is all about the subsidies that oil and gas takes. Tens of billions of dollars every single year. Oil subsidies are an out-of-date corporate entitlement. Burning fossil fuels is the nation's largest source of carbon pollution. Oil prices don't justify subsidizing oil production. Conservative estimates put U.S. direct subsidies to the fossil fuel industry at roughly $20 billion per year. So Trump, if you are against subsidizing energy, maybe start there. He also wants to pass policy to stop all production of windmills, which would put a lot of people out of work and reduce our energy independence. And then he finishes the non-question part by talking about how wind is driving the whales crazy.
They're dangerous. You see what's happening up in the Massachusetts area with the whales, where they had 2 whales wash ashore in, I think, a 17-year period. And now they had 14 this season. The windmills are driving the whales crazy, obviously.
He is such a freak. I think he genuinely thinks that the windmills are causing whales to lose their minds and beach themselves, when in reality it's probably because of climate change and warming waters and lack of food. Anyway, that's part 1, where he rambled incoherently for probably 30-40 minutes. Join me in part 2, where we talk about his responses to reporter questions.